Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, Auditing 101, Staying Compliant and Secure Your Enterprise with SIEM. I hope you're all doing well and are having a good day at work, and I hope that this session will add good value to your work today. So my name is Siddharth, or just Sid, and I work at Manage Engine as an IT security specialist, and it is truly my pleasure to welcome you all here today. But before we get started, I just want to ensure that there is no issue with the webinar setup. I hope you're able to view my presentation on the screen and you're also able to hear my voice. So in case if you're having any issues with the shared screen or with my audio, please ping us on the live chat and we'll try to fix the problem right away. So I'll just pause for about 30 seconds to a minute. And in case you have any issues with either my audio or with the presentation, please let us know in the live chat so we can fix it right away. Right, so I hope everything is all right with the webinar setup. I also just want to get a couple of housekeeping things out of the way before I get started. The first is that we'll be sending over the presentation and the webinar recording within a day after the webinar. And also that in case you have any queries about the webinar, you can just drop in those questions on the live chat and we'll try to answer them either on course of the webinar or at the end of the webinar. So just wanted to let you know these two things before we get started. We'll be sending over the presentations and the webinar recording, and you can also ask us questions on the live chat over the course of the webinar or at the end of the webinar. Right. So what we're going to be discussing today is how you can leverage the power of an auditing tool like a SIEM or an SIEM solution in order to build a security program in your enterprise. Right. So by implementing these security measures, you will be in a position where you can show your auditors and compliance governing bodies substantial controls that you have in place along with clear-cut data, which could be in the form of reports. So, and in this regard, an auditing tool like a SIM solution can be instrumental for organizations that need to comply with regulatory mandates. And these regulatory mandates expect tight measures for security, especially the security of business sensitive and confidential data of customers and employees. So if you take a major compliance regulation, whether it is HIPAA or the Sarbanes-Oxley or PCI, you will see that that particular regulation expects you to do certain things or rather track certain things. And I think the problem at hand is very clear that we have a lot of security challenges and compliance obligations to deal with today. And we are going to be looking at how auditing with a SIEM tool can play a major role in this and help you solve your security and compliance problems. So let's get started with the presentation. And think about this to get as the first step. Think about the question that you see on the screen. That is, do you struggle with auditing? And do you have easy access to information about important events and changes occurring in your network? Think about this for a moment. How much information about activity occurring in your network do you have easy access to? Right? I'm also going to be looking at this from the context of Active Directory because I think we have a lot of administrators today attending the webinar who deal with Active Directory on a daily basis. So we're also going to be looking at auditing from the context of Active Directory changes. So say in Active Directory, a user has a group membership change to a group with elevated privileges. Would you know that that has happened instantly? Because that is, of course, a critical change and one that can potentially compromise your security. So if such a change occurs, can you tell me with confidence that if such critical changes happen in your network, that you would know it instantly? Or if you take the host on your network, would you know if any host in your network is connecting to a malicious URL? Other common events too. Take logon activity for example. Do you have the information about the top users who have failed logons along with the reason for the failure? Things like this. I encourage you to think about this and tell us on the live chat how well you are poised for your audits. What are the tools that you have in place? What are the tools that you have in place to comply with different regulations? Because you need to show auditors from the governing bodies clear-cut data about the systems and the measures that your organization has in place for security. So the bottom line, the ultimate question is, do you have control over your IT infrastructure with whatever current technology you have, or do you feel something is lacking? Are you in a position to know about every important security event, all the important alerts being triggered in your network, about important changes occurring with regards to network configurations and Active Directory changes? Do you have easy access to all of this information? So I encourage you, you can let us know on the live chat what you have in place or what you feel is lacking. And over the course of the next few slides, hopefully you get more clarity and maybe a solution to deal with the problem. So one of the most important things to understand is the four vital W's, right? Because a lot of compliance regulations are, of course, going to stress upon the security of data. This could be business confidential data, or it could be personal data of employees and customers. And this is a major concern that most compliance regulations address. In fact, most compliance regulations revolve around this fundamental idea of data security. So when it comes to auditing, you as an administrator or a security manager, you need to know who is accessing your data, what operations are they performing on it, and most importantly is you need a check so that only the right authorized and authenticated users are accessing the data, right? Because compliances ultimately revolve around protecting the data of individuals and the data, confidential data of businesses. And they expect you to have clear-cut security measures in place in order to know what is happening to the confidential data in your organization. Like you need to track all important changes being made to important objects. This could be your files and folders. And the same, of course, idea extends to your other Active Directory objects as well, be it your users, your groups, your computers, your group policy, your password policy, everything. This is where the four vital W's come into the picture. You need to know who made the change, which object was changed, when was the change made, and what the new value is versus what the old value was. That is, you need to compare the two values. So these four vital W's, you need to stay on top of these four vital W's to know exactly what is going on inside your network. And this includes your Active Directory infrastructure as well. Because if you are in a position to answer these questions, that means that you have proper measures in place to track and audit your confidential data in your organization. So you have typically your data storage components. I mean, you have data in files and folders. You're going to have data in databases as well. And if you are in a position to answer these four questions, that is, who made the change, when, which object was changed, when was the change made, and what the changed value is compared to the old value. If you're in a position to answer these four questions, then you are in a good position when it comes to tackling your auditing and compliance challenges. However, if you're not able to address these questions, then it definitely means something is lacking and you need a specialized auditing tool to help you with your security and compliance obligations. So here is where the whole idea of auditing starts to come in, right? So before we actually jump into SIEM and look at our tool, Manage Engine Log360, it is important to first establish a very important idea with regards to auditing, which is the concept of logging, right? Because now as administrators, you know that log data is critical. Remember this, the log data is critical and can really help you with regards to compliance audits, because the log data from your different servers and your network perimeter devices, your applications like your databases and web servers, all of this is really important because important information gets recorded in the logs. And you as administrators obviously know how powerful log data is. That the log data generated by your network contains all the important information about every single event occurring in your network. And you need to extract meaningful information out of the log data in order to stay on top of the important security events occurring in your enterprise. But you need to first configure on the device, whether it's your workstation or network device or database or web server, you need to configure on the device to generate logs for the desired security events of interest. Now, what this means is, for example, on my Windows machine, we have what is known as the local policy or the group policy. So this is something that you need to configure. Let me just open the group policy console. So what we're going to have to first do before we can leverage the power of auditing is first set up logging policies on the different devices across our network. So for Windows devices, of course, we have the group policy or local policy. And this is something that you can set up on your Windows servers. So I'm just navigating to the audit policy. So you see events on the screen like log on events and account management, directory service access, object changes, privilege use, and so on. So you can enable auditing for any of these events so that the system starts generating log entries each time these events occur. Now it's important to optimally configure this because you don't want to enable auditing for literally every event possible, because that way you just end up with too many logs and it becomes very difficult to go through this data and extract some valuable information out of it. So you want to enable auditing only for the events that concern you, which is where in the case of Windows, you have the advanced audit policy configuration, where each of the events that you saw under the audit policy gets broken down into several subcategories. So if you take object access, you've got a bunch of subcategories here, and you can specifically turn on logging only for these events. So in this case, maybe if you're looking at a particular compliance mandate where you're tracking accesses and modifications made to files and folders, you might not want to turn on auditing for each of these subcategories, right? You might not be interested in certification services, for example, or SAM, but you might be interested in auditing file shares, the file system events, and handle manipulations. So you can go ahead and turn on auditing just for the events that concern you so that you are working with a small amount of important log data. I mean, small amount of important events alone get logged and you can track just those events. So I just wanted to mention this. I'm sure a lot of administrators, of course, today who are attending the webinar, I'm sure most of you are aware of some of these ideas and might already be doing this. But I just thought it was important to establish the need and the importance really of enabling an optimum auditing policy. So I just gave an example of Windows servers. And in the case of Windows now, if you wanted to track, once you've enabled, configured the logging on the Windows server, if you wanted to track these logs being generated, you would of course have to use the native tool, which is Windows Event Viewer. And if any of you have tried using Event Viewer, you would know how difficult it is to get the information that you're looking for and really run a report for events that an auditor is requesting. So here is where traditional methods and native tools fail to give you clear-cut data about what is going on in your network. And that's why you need a specialized auditing tool like an SIEM or a SIEM solution to collect these logs from your different components in your IT and allow you to easily analyze these events and run reports, get alerts, and so on. So essentially, you need to first configure on the device to generate logs for the desired security events of interest, and then collect all these logs from your different devices into a central tool, which is your SIM solution. Essentially, aggregating all this data into one single console for very effective analysis, reporting, and alerting. So why do we need this? Of course, I'm sure you all agree with me on the reason for why we can't bank on native tools and why we need a specialized auditing tool. But why do we need auditing in the first place and why do we need a SIM solution is, according to me, it is to put it very simply, it is to know answers to vital security questions, right? The questions that you see on the screen. And you might well want to know these answers in your enterprise as an administrator. Questions like who is accessing and modifying your critical files and folders, or even your database? Which user accounts have been locked out, and what is the reason for the lockout, like a bad password or something like that? Were there any critical changes made to your domain controller or your network devices, right? So any important group membership changes, any other critical changes made to your GPOs or to your router configurations, things like that. And if there, and you could also want to know if there's any unusual activity pertaining to the usage on your database or web server, right? So I'm sure at least a few of these questions you are definitely concerned about this in your enterprise. Because if you're not able to answer these basic security questions, it means that that is you don't have the right set of tools in place to tackle important security challenges of today. So you need a specialized auditing tool to aggregate all this log data from different devices and different components of your IT infrastructure, so that you're in a position to answer and track important security events such as the questions that we saw on the screen. So Manage Engine, we have a special solution, a comprehensive SIM tool called Log360, which is an integration of two of our existing tools. One is Event Log Analyzer and the other is AD Audit Plus. So we combined these two tools into one single console through a seamless integration. So you get the features of these two tools, Event Log Analyzer and AD Audit Plus, in one single console, which is Log360. So what you can do with Log360 is audit every single important event and change occurring across your servers, across your network devices, your applications, which could be your databases and web servers, your endpoints, and you also get real-time auditing of Active Directory, which is done by the AD Audit Plus component. So what you can do with Log360 is, if I had to just summarize the features in a few points, you can, of course, you can do real-time auditing of every critical change occurring to your Active Directory components like your GPO and every other important change occurring in Active Directory. You can also track your network devices, your firewalls, routers, and switches, your IDS, IPS systems. You can track your critical business applications like your databases and web servers to ensure continuity of business and security of your applications. You can audit your privileged user actions, your privileged user logon activity, session monitoring. You can audit every single access made to your Active Directory objects, to your files and folders, the modifications and changes made to your confidential data. All of this can be tracked using Log360, which is of course comes as which is an integration of two of our existing components. So even if you're already using one of these components, Event Log Analyzer or AD Audit Plus, it's really very easy to add on the other component to get a unified console in Log360. So I will be going through a little bit more of the tool towards the end of the presentation and sort of just jump into the tool to give you an idea of what it looks like and what are the things you can pull out of the tool. So we will get back to this in the end of the presentation. But I want to address a very important question that I get very often at events and also in webinars, which is what exactly should we audit, right? Because yeah, we've said audit logging is important, centralizing the log data is important, but what exactly do we need to audit? What are the systems that we need to audit? And of course, there isn't a clear-cut answer to this because often we have budget restrictions, we have restrictions on the amount of bandwidth and processing capability in our IT infrastructures, and obviously a big bank is going to have much more processing power compared to say a small or medium business. So there's no clear-cut formula to decide exactly what are the systems to audit. But to put it very simply, you need to audit every single system that is of concern to you. And most importantly, you need to audit the right set of events on those systems. So typically, these could be workstations, you could have servers, you could have domain controllers, your network devices, your firewalls, routers, and switches, your IDS IPS systems, your endpoint security solutions, your databases, your web servers. Most often, these are the systems that organizations try to audit. These are the systems from which you need to get configure logging on and collect that log data into your SIEM solution. So Log360 supports all of these log types and more really. So you get a lot of out of the box data with Log360 that covers the most the most common systems that need to be audited for organizations. So here I hope I've clarified on what kind of things you need to audit. And if you need any specific system that is not listed here, you can just ping us on the live chat and we'll try to address that concern as well, because we have custom log parsing, which allows you to parse any log format that is human readable using Manage Engine Log 360. So pretty much we cover everything of concern to an administrator. So we're going to look at now how exactly with a SIEM tool you can leverage the power of auditing. So the first step, of course, I said, is to create an audit policy on the devices, on the systems that are of concern. And you want to create an optimal audit policy so that you're logging events or logging only the events that are of concern to you. So you do this on these systems that we saw in the previous slide. You need to configure the audit policy and then collect all these logs into your SIEM solution, which will correlate these different events and try to form patterns, try to form associations between these events to detect potential threats to your network security. And it'll alert you for these potential threats so that you can take quick action and investigate as to what exactly has happened. And you're also going to be archiving all this data about the different events so that you can report this to your auditors to show what has happened over the past 6 months or 1 year in your organization, and talk about what are the security incidents that happened and how they were dealt with. And you also, which is because of the archival, you're also in a position to conduct forensics. In case you get a data breach or in case you encounter a security incident, you can always go back to the log data that you've archived and analyze the log data to find out what happened back then during the security incident. So this, in a sense, is the typical flow and what happens with an SIEM with regards to auditing. And when I said we have alerts for important security events, you also, of course, need to be in a position to manage these alerts, because ultimately you want to get a quick alert when something goes wrong, and you want to reduce the time to respond to that particular alert. So as the incident is triggered in your network, your SIEM solution picks up that alert and alerts you in near real time that this particular incident has happened. And what we do with Log360 is we allow each alert to be automatically raised as a ticket to an administrator, which brings in accountability. And then the administrator can analyze and respond to that particular threat and report this particular incident very easily using the reporting console, so that there is accountability that is ensured and the entire resolution process of the incident is also taken care of. So this, in a sense, is what a SIM solution can do for you. Just summarizing, going back to the previous slide, it can you once you've set up the audit policy and collected the logs to your SIM solution, it can correlate these logs, throw up alerts for important events. You will be in a position then to investigate that particular incident. You will also be able to track the resolution of the incident by raising tickets to administrators automatically upon the alert being triggered. And finally, you're in a position to respond to that particular incident and report the incident for your internal audit requirements or for your compliance auditors. Because remember that compliance mandates are not going to punish you simply because you got breached. They're going to penalize you if you get breached and if they find that you didn't have proper systems in place to stop the breach. So, in fact, most of the compliance regulations and government legislative changes today are focusing on a mandatory notification for breaches. So, in case your organization gets breached, you might have to report this breach to the governing authority within a particular time frame. So in this case, your SIM solution is going to play a major role in giving you that notification when something bad happens in your network, so you can quickly go and resolve the breach as soon as possible. You're also in a position to conduct a forensic investigation and find out exactly what happened. And all this information that you're able to get out of your SIM solution can be used in furnishing a detailed incident report for your auditors. So in case you had a security incident and you show your auditors that you know exactly what happened and the time frame of these events and how you went about quickly responding and resolving the security incident, you are not going to be penalized. Whereas if you're not in a position to detect the breach in the first place, and maybe 3, 4 months after the breach, some third party notifies you, and even after that, you're not in a position to identify exactly what were the sequence of events that happened that led to the breach, then you're going to be in big trouble from your compliance auditors, because then you're going to be fined for negligence. You're going to be fined for being negligent to your data security, and that is the biggest nightmare for any enterprise, because that results in a loss of trust with the business. And and the person who's usually at the center of this is the security team. It's the administrators who really will be in big trouble when something like this happens. So it's important to understand how your enterprise is poised to deal with such potential breaches, and what are the measures that you have in place for the security of confidential data, so that you are in a position to quickly detect and respond to security incidents, and also show your auditors clear cut information about the different things that you're tracking, and also how these measures are helping you tighten the data security in your enterprise. So with that, I'm finishing the presentation bit. I just want to also jump to our tool quickly and just run you through what you can get out of Manage Engine Log360. And I'll just finish that in about maybe the next 5, 6 minutes, following which any questions you had about the presentation or about our tool, you can ask that on the live chat and have your queries clarified immediately. So like I said, Log360 integrates Event Log Analyzer and AD Audit Plus. I'm just jumping to the event log analyzer console here. And what you see immediately is the dashboard view of Event Log Analyzer, where you can get a quick idea of the important events occurring in your network at a single glance. So you also get the amount of alerts being triggered and a trend of the events happening in your network. So the dashboard view really uh, gives you the information that you need to know at a quick glance if everything is working normally in your network as desired, and if there's any anomalous, suspicious behavior that might need your attention. So what we do with regards to compliance. So if you go to the compliance tab, and I encourage you, in fact, to visit demo.eventloganalyzer.com, and we have a bit of simulated data up on the demo site, so you can also get a look and feel of the product, and you can also go ahead and download the free trial, which comes for 30 days, so that you can try to configure some of the servers and applications in your network, and see exactly how powerful the tool is and how it can solve your compliance and security problems. So what we do with compliance is, for a lot of the common compliances, we have mapped the requirements to predefined reports that the tool provides. And all these reports are instantly accessible as soon as you get the product up and running. So you don't have any extra configurations required. You don't need to do anything special to run the report. As soon as you've added the particular, be it a file server or a domain controller or a database or a web server, you will be in a position with the tool to immediately start seeing results and viewing the data in the reports that get automatically generated. So we're going to show you a couple of reports. So I'm going to maybe look at, say, applications, because I think that's a really hot topic at the moment. So if you look at your databases and web servers, I think a lot of you might be concerned about securing them. So we have a lot of predefined reports. Like I said, we have actually about over 1,000 predefined reports for different events that could be of concern to you and help you solve your security problems and compliance obligations. So if I take maybe my web server to start off with, if we've got a set of reports here called the IAS web server top reports, and under that, maybe I say the top status codes on the web server. So you can get this information instantly about your IAS web server or Apache web server, and you can quickly have a look at the different status codes that are being thrown up on the web server, and you can match this to the ideal usage that you would normally see in your organization, and quickly detect if there's any deviation from a baseline. Maybe if you have a sudden hike on a particular day, you find out that a 97 percentage of 200 HTTP errors, and the rest of the status codes are a much smaller percentage. Then you know that there might be suspicious activity on the web server that could prompt an investigation from your side. So that is something I wanted to show with regards to web servers. And of course, databases are a big concern when it comes to security, data security, and compliance. Compliance mandates obviously expect very tight measures for database security. So you can do, for example, if you take your Oracle databases. So I've got a bunch of reports here under the Oracle Server Audit reports, and you can, for example, track the fail logons by users to quickly understand which are the people who are having failed attempts to access data on your web server. And as usual, we have very easy to use interface where you can, maybe you see a lot of different users having different amount of fail logons, and you want to quickly find out who are the top users with fail logons. So if 95% or 90% of the fail logons are coming from one single user, then you know that there is a potential suspicious activity, which could mean a threat to your database security. So you can check different things like this about your SQL servers, your Oracle database, your Apache and IAS web servers pretty much every single component of your network and applications like web servers and databases can be tracked with Event Log Analyzer. And for the Active Directory context, we've got the AD Audit Plus component. So I've just jumped to the AD Audit Plus tab. And here again, just as with Event Log Analyzer, the AD Audit Plus dashboard gives you clear information about different events occurring in your Active Directory infrastructure. So this is, of course, a major concern, just as important as your databases and network devices. And AD Audit Plus can help you here tracking accesses to objects, critical changes made to your GPOs, things like that. So if I jump to the reports tab of AD Audit Plus, so here's a report under group management. We've got about, again, with AD Audit Plus, you've got over 200 predefined reports that give you clear information about every important event occurring in Active Directory. So things like the top modified groups, you can find out who is modifying your groups, what is the modification made, and when was the modification made. Essentially, you'll be in a position to answer the four vital W's that we discussed at the start of the webinar. That is, who made the change, when the change was made, which object was changed, and what the changed value is compared to the old value. So we've got a bunch of reports here again with AD Audit Plus that track, I mean, broadly speaking, these can be classified into the logon audit. You've got the Active Directory changes, your user management, group management, computer management, OU management, and the account management. We've got specific set of reports for GPO changes that you see here. All this is predefined, meaning as soon as you configure your domain controller and configure logging on your domain controller, AD Audit Plus will collect all these events in real time and generate these reports that you can access. Any information that you need can easily be pulled out for a particular time frame, and you can export the report as a PDF or a CSV for your auditors. We've again, just like Event Log Analyzer, we have a set of predefined reports for compliance mandates. So for SOX, HIPAA, PCI, or GLBA, and FISMA, we provide a bunch of reports out of the box that make your compliance auditing troubles a lot easier. So I'd encourage you to log in to demo.eventloganalyzer.com or demo.adauditplus.com and check out what are the reports and alerts that you can get out of the tool, because you'll be most likely pleasantly surprised that a particular issue that you had in your auditing will be solved very easily using one of the components of Log360. So you can also, another thing that you can do is you can just download the free trial of Log360 and install it, because it's really simple. It doesn't require too much help even. You can just download from the website, from Log360, and get, maybe you can just drop in your email ID so that you get free technical support during your evaluation. You can just download Log360 and get it up and running on your net, on your server, so that you can see how you can configure different network devices and applications to Log360 and quickly see how you can extract a lot of value from the tool. So with that, I'm concluding today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope the session was useful, and I hope Log360 can help you solve your auditing challenges. So we're here on the live chat to answer any of your questions about today's webinar or about Log360. So you can go ahead and shoot out these questions. We've already been answering a few questions over the course of the webinar. So in case you have any questions, do let us know on the live chat and we'll answer them. Also, at the end of the webinar, I'd like it if you can fill up the feedback form so that you can let us know what you liked or didn't like about today's session, and we can tweak our agenda for future presentations based on your inputs. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great day ahead.